So in this meeting, I'm expecting that as the people of Makgoba and all the people, the departments involved, I'm expecting that we reach an agreement in terms of how do we move forward, how do we bring Kgosi Mamphoku high, what do we do with it, how do we bury it, what is the process. I'm expecting to get all these answers in today's episode. We have the following joining us. Hi everyone, and this is their story. So my name is Kgoshi and I am not Miss Makgoba. To those who have been referring me to Miss Makgoba, I'm not Miss Makgoba. I'm Kgoshi and I'm a grandchild of the Makhobas, and that's how I got to be in this place with you guys. But I'll tell you more about that. Now can we please officially open the program with prayer. So, Rokopela Kuku Rabosebo. Kibulela Rabosebo Barubile Katabe.
Adina Michelle Fatawari, Johanna Mumadi, Dimu Papa, Mudimu Muramu, Halala Papa, Panabama, Shiva Kamara, and Kuye, Rokopela Larato Loquani, Kamayo, Halalanka, Bizola Marana, Jesus Christ. Amen.
So, we're going to move to program number 2. Before it's our Rokopela, Mr. Lesicha Munyama.
Yes, restrooms are just around the corner. Those who want to use them. So you are welcome.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to ask a question. I'll speak English in Spain. You will accredit this side, so I want to ask, is there anyone who knows the taste of a mango? Do you guys know how a mango is? I've never eaten a mango, so I'd love to prepare myself. Yeah, maybe at least 3 people who have eaten a mango.
I have.
Okay. Yeah, how does it taste like? How is a mango like? I've never seen a mango.
Sweet.
How is it like?
Yeah, it's sweet. Sweet. I love sweet and juicy.
And delicious.
Some say it has some herb. Is that true?
Not all
It has some.
not all of the mangoes.
Not all the mangoes.
Yes, they've got names. There's sensation and then they've got names.
Some say it's green, some say it's yellow, some say it has reddish. Is that true? Is it?
It's yellow inside.
It's yellow inside.
Skin is green.
So it's green outside and it's green and then it's yellow inside.
I think it's right. Okay. Like
Yeah.
different.
Like
different. Yeah, it changes
Kind of
the color.
Yeah. There's a sour mango. Is there the one that is sour? You want a mango?
When it's not right.
The one that is not right. Okay. So this is how, with what you just said, this is how we got to have their story. We're going around asking people about the history of Some say this, some say that, some say that. I don't know from all of you who is right about the mango being green or being yellow. I don't know. But what I know and I believe is that you're not wrong, you're not lying. Am I correct to say that? Am I correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is how we got to their story. We're asking people about the history of the Makhobas, and they were all telling us different versions. But if you go to a person who's seen a mango being green, and you tell them that the mango is orange, they'll probably say you are lying. Until you come with that mango and be like, here's the mango I'm speaking about. So what I'm trying to show you is that different versions of the story, of the history of the Makhobas. So what you had is probably right, and what I know is also probably right. You are not lying, I'm not lying. We're all maybe living in Makgoba's group, in the clan of the Makhobas at different times, different seasons. So yeah, that's why I wanted to tell you that how we came about the version, the introduction of their story. We're all saying that the story that you know of the Makhobas is right. So if you try to Google the history of Makgoba's group, there's not really much you can learn about Makgoba's group, besides the fact that King Mamphoku Makgoba was murdered and his head was taken to Pretoria. But that's not the only story. That's like maybe a paragraph in the story of the Makhobas. So with that being said, I'll continue to tell you about it. I'm a storyteller, just be patient. And yeah, we have some coffees. If you feel like I've been talking too much, just grab a coffee, grab a tea, and you should be good to go. So I'm gonna go from this way. Just introduce yourself. Let's get to know each other.
My name is Thabo Makgoba. I'll say slightly more when I give my little talk. At the moment I'm based in Cape Town, and I'm the Anglican Archbishop of Cape Town. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Mtsani Sevela from Ditsong, South Africa, the acting director of the Ditsong Cultural History Museum.
Good morning. I'm Nobile Makgoba. I'm from the South African Heritage Resources Agency in the Repatriation Institution Office based in Pretoria.
Rianocha. It's like I get Troy Wabapili from South African Heritage Resources Agency. I'm a manager of the Repatriation and Restitution Office. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Zakene Ndlovu. I'm from SARA, and I'm also from the Repatriation and Restitution Office.
Thobela, lebitso la ka ke Kgosi Mamphoku, ke tla go Ditsong Museum of South Africa.
Good morning. My name is Frank Teichert. I'm from Ditsong, and I'm the Curator of Archaeology and Human Remains.
Thobela, Johannes Mokutim from Thabo Makgoba Foundation.
Thobela, Marupeng wa Moholo, ke tsamaya Archbishop. Thank you.
Avsheni, Veto Isipo Mawonda, and its own Cultural History Museum. Zurine, Molweni, Ena ki Mokale wa Makgoba. Originally kwa ka Mofasa se Makgoba ke Makgoba. Ke Noku ke Mphalavurwa. Ki tswa ka mo fasinyana ka mo ba reng ke Lenyenye. Tshepa le o tseba. And then ka Moshomo ke modulasetulo. I'm the chairperson of Limpopo Heritage Heritage Resources Authority. We are a statutory body that advises the MEC on matters of heritage within the province. We normally, in fact, we are under the MEC, the Honorable Funani Jiri Maseko, the MEC for Sports, Arts and Culture. Tove.
Tumela, leina la ka ke nna Charles Modiba, ke tswa ko Lekoko Department ya Sport, Arts and Culture mo Limpopo, ke director ya Museum and Heritage Services. Hello.
Tumela, le kae? Ka leina ke nna Lebogang Bopato, ke colleague ya Chair from their story. Thank you.
Dumelang, ke le setsa monyama, ke lo na mo fase mo dipla. So maraka mojumo ke ko Pitori, no BMW marketing manager. Hello, wala BMW le ka. These guys like us, we try to develop marketers. Won't go back to Germany.
Tawela, kina matlale mawele, ki tswa ke le ka Makgoba, ke nna setlogolo sa Kgoshi Mamphoku.
Tawela, ke nna Rago Mathodi, ke setlogolo sa Mamphoku, ke tswa ka Malepisi ga Mathabati.
Tobela, Lina Maroili, go tswa ga Makanye, ke setlogolo sa Matemane Mahore, Mamphoku.
Ke Mantsalide Makgoba. Ke ena motogolo wa Mamphoku, motogolo wa Madlem. Ko re ke bona Madlem a ke re koko. Re go di ka lapeng la gagwe.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Aspasia Baker, and I'm the treasurer for Limpopo Heritage and Resources Authority.
Richie, nna David Monama, ka bodulo ke ko Mokopane. Ke nna mongwaledi wa Lia.
Okay, to our guests who just walked in, we're just on number 3, it's introductions.
Okay, my name is John Dewele Makgoba. Yeah.
Where are you from?
No, I'm from Yei, Makgoba's Cliff, but I'm in Pretoria. Yeah.
Toela. Okay, Mabule Joseph Makgoba. I'm from here, but currently in Pretoria.
Dumela, ka leina ke William Macha Makgoba, ke setlogolo sa Mora Makgoba. Mara ka madulo ke sa le Pitori.
And for the purpose of the future generations, we record all the sessions that we are having and we put them on YouTube. The channel is Their Story 1895, but if you search Their Story 1895, you're probably not going to get it. So you should search Their Story 1895 Makgoba's Proof. That's our YouTube channel. So when we sat down and then we were starting Their Story, these are some of the questions that we were asking ourselves. So it reads, we can never know where we are going if we do not know where we come from. We can never have answers if we do not ask questions. Apparently people get killed if they speak about the history of Makgoba. Will we die? We don't know, but we are willing to take the risk. And can I confirm, when we were busy, when we were starting in our early stages, we did get death threats. Some people would call us and tell us, no, you shouldn't be speaking about this. get like weird WhatsApp messages, but we were like, let's take a risk. And it was quite interesting to see that people are willing to just kill people for finding out about the history of the Makhobas. And then it continues, was the death of our great king, Kgoshi Mamphoku, in vain? Did he fight tirelessly for us to kill each other and save his land? Are we celebrating his legacy enough? Maybe not. Why is Makhoba's king misspelled? So if you've walked around as you are coming, you probably realized that the name actually is not spelled correctly. But we have to say thank you to Archbishop, because he did lead that process of changing the name. He'll tell us more about it when he says his part. So as African people, as you might know, that's how we used to tell our history. And for those who don't know Sepedi, don't worry, you'll be fine. Just watch the YouTube channel, we'll try to translate. So I'm going to ask Koko Manta or Bardirane Seredo.
Ena monywana re a lotšha ra re du ra ge mothaleba ra selema sa go mamagwela du batho ba ba itsetela makgokana ga matšhaka maimela gape lentsi le a toga le mmele wa o ikete ke bona ba tseta ka makgokane ba ga matšhaka maimela batho ba bo mmediona a tagala batho ba bo selema sa bo mamogweleto ke batho ba kgata khungwane mo tagala sa mbona sa ina maina re ra thaba le thora ka tlheko a ge mono ka o eng emela motse bo wa tswa ke bona batho ba bo selema sa bo mamogweleto ba selema le thaka pele le pharaga le no batho ba bona na magasana makgoba bulana go ba lengotlo o elela go bega bosi ka re maloba ka khopile batho ba bona na go ke thagedi ba ola ka nna melora ba mphetosha le ndara ha ge mono ka wi re ra le bona bo matma monyeleko bo matma se dia go malo go le di magua ta ka go re na re rana matholela moleko go isa ya ba di sa thoko ja matre
wow 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 Sumile kitana le mabujo le
tla re tshwarela gore re tloša maikutlo re tloša dilo tša gape a re sa tswela pele se re tla re se dira we can't okay ke kgopela re amogeleng motlaleng Mawele ba tlo re tlhalosetša ka mogolo wa reng re fitlhile bjang gore re feletse ebile re nyakana le tlhogo gore go diragetse we're gonna welcome Motlaleng Mawele. She's going to tell us about how did we get to a point where we are now looking for a head, what happened before we even got here, a little bit of history of how Mamphoku died.
Mo re thomilego tabe go feleletša ebile mamotla re kopana ka mokokobale ke ena bego a tema a tsena mo batho ba tsebang gore ba related to King Mamphoku. So o ile a feleletša ebile a fihlile ka lapeng la mokgekolo ge ntše a gare a nyakišiša. So ya re ge last year mokokobane a re mo gona a re sesi ke o ka ba bjang ge re ka šala taba e ya tlhogo morago because she e homoletšwe a e šale morago. So ya ba gore ArchBishop Thabo Makgoba ke ge namile ke iša molaetša go yena gore la mafelo okay before ke iša molaetša go ArchBishop le yena o ile a ba le rena ke ga re botšiša taba go rena mmele le ka ba le tseba mo leng gona na ka mo family ya ba gore family ba re yes mmele ona ra tseba gore o mo kae. So namile re tsamaile le ArchBishop namile ba bontšhana mo polang le mmele wa Kgosi Mamphoku. So ya ba gore o ba go tlo ka thuša ka sela. So ya ba gore ka plešana re go ka go ArchBishop re ka se kgone go ka direla Mogalabe leswika because tlhogo ya gage a e gona a re thomeng re nyakeng tlhogo pele namile re tla kgona go mo direla leswika. So ra re go ArchBishop re ka gore wena o lentswe la ga go tsena monyako go kokota ba go bulela because rena ka gore re kwa fase a re tsebege so wena ka gore ba šetše ba go tseba kua le kua ke wena o ka kgonang go ka re etelela pele. Okay namile ArchBishop ka nnete a ba le bothata ya ba gore mokokobane ka ge le yena a be a le mo processing yo go gopola ka le lengwe la matšatši mokokobane o ile a ya Ditsong a seno ya Ditsong e le taba ya gore o ba nyakiša ka yona taba ya tlhogo. So ka Ditsong ba gana go mmulela menyako because na a sa tsebege ke ge ba mmotša gore sepela go ArchBishop gore Kgoshi Makgoba ka gore ke bona ba tsebegang ka mo gore o mongwe wa ba re mamang ba bile ba moditše batho ba bararo. So ka ge rena re be re šetše re tlwaetše ArchBishop so ya ba gore ka nnete re bolela le ArchBishop ke yena a kgonneng go ka botša baditšong gore ka nnete batho ba wa ba tseba. So ke ge namile a boya ga seno boya a re okay ArchBishop ka nnete o re diretše jwanong ke kgonne go boledišana le baditšong. So baditšong ba mmotša gore sepela le re le o ye gae le sware meeting le family. So re kgone go bona gore ka nnete le kgonne go dula le balapa la bolela ka yona tabe e rengwa le di-minutes le tšeo tša meeting tšeo re tlabe gore di dira go diegile bjalo a le gore ntse re dutse ka mola rana mara ra kgetha gore ka gore ena ebile ke ena motho ebileng a kgonneng go ka šala tsa le morago a re mo family la e tla nama ya ba ena secretary ya rena for dilo tše tše dintši so ka nnete o kgonne go bedišana le ba Ditsong mamotlha ebile ke a leboga ge re kgonne go kopana le ba Ditsong re le family ke re modimo a be le lena re leboga go kopana le lena so ka morago ga lehola Mamphoku o tlhokofetse ka 1885 ka taba ya dintwa 1895 okay o tlhokofetse ka morago o le go tlhokofala ka 1895 ba le gona kwa mabele kua mo ba kgonneng go ripa tlhogo ya gage ba ntšea tlhogo sale e ya Pitori so go tloga moo gare ya ba gore family le yona e a palakana and then le setšhaba sa ga Makgoba se a palakana so tše dintšhi tsona a setseng ka rego ke tla di tlhalosa kudu mo go YouTube o kweša gore ditaba ka moka di gona ka re ke a diela e tlo ba e telele so ke a leboga.
She was just narrating how Kgoshi Mamphoku was killed. Kgoshi Mamphoku was killed in 1895, and if you when we go out, there's a mountain somewhere here, and there's what do you call the area, the aerial line there. You'll be able to see it when you're just outside here. That's where he died. And since 1895. He was killed, and then he chopped his head. Then they took it to Pretoria. Pretoria where? We don't know. And I hope item number 8 there, and input by Ditsong will tell us more about that. And then now, I'd like us to welcome Archbishop Thabo Makgoba. But before we do that, I want to tell you a bit of a story. So, as we are busy with our YouTube, you know, like our first episode that we shot with a cell phone. And when we're telling people that we want to take videos and put them on YouTube, people are not taking us serious. Until we met a few people, the likes of this family, and then they agreed to talk to us. So we shot an episode, and then we named it The Spiritual Side of Makgoba's Truth. And that's where I got introduced to Archbishop Thabo Makgoba for the first time. So he said, no, because I couldn't be there with you guys, when you get to Matima's grave, Matima is the daughter of Mamphoku, call me on WhatsApp, let's do a video call. I know the name Thabo Makgoba, I watch TV. So when we get there, she's like, she wants to call, and her phone, she doesn't have network. I'm like, don't worry, call with my phone. And, she called me, she saved the number. I'm like, that's where I want it. She saved the number, we called Archbishop, then we had our conversation and everything. When everything is done, I went back. I'm like, hi, I am Kukubali, the one we were speaking there, although I was not speaking. But to my surprise, he was never rude. He spoke with me nicely, and we had a conversation. And then from there, he told me, like, no, I have 2 of my aunts who are 100 and 99. So I would like you to go talk to them if this is what you do. And unfortunately, she passed on. But the one who is 99, my idea was still alive. So we arranged to go speak with her. Went to Amile, and then we went there, spoke to her, came back, we shared the link. And he watched the episode and he came back to me, he's like, what is this thing that you are doing? I also don't know. I also don't know what is this thing that we are doing. But what I know is, at the end of this process, there will be peace in the clan of the Makhobas. This is what we are doing. So with that said, yes, can we welcome Archbishop Thabo.
Thank you, Father, for that lovely story. And Father will round it up in separately later. Good morning, respected elders and distinguished guests from Sarah, Ditsong, Lira. Good morning, Ditlo Halaga, Kamuka, and good morning, Maru and Joe. You will see that in the program, Kgosi Makgoba to speak. I went to see him on Wednesday in a hospital in Pretoria. He had an operation and he's unable to join us. And he sends his love and endorsement of this meeting. And he says, if we as the Makhobas pull together in whatever area we feel God is calling us, we will once again be a great nation. Kaniti is an honor, Program Director, our leader, and thanks for your energy, as Makaleng has said, for driving this initiative and your recording of our story through their story. I stand before you today really humbled, so humbled as a son of this land, deeply rooted in the history and the tradition and the spirit of our ancestors. And as Mukubali said, we gather here facing Mabili, down Bakarat slopes, a place of profound history, sacred ground, where one of our ancestors, the healer and leader, was beheaded 130 years ago, this 9 June 2025. And so today is indeed a moment of both a tragedy, but a story of the resilience of the Makgoba. I want to read in Afrikaans what is recorded in a thesis at the University of Pretoria of what they recorded in the day when the Makhobas were moved out of the valley. Remember, before they were moved, some were pushed from Hawaii, some were pushed all over because of the trusts arrangement that people must come down from the mountains. But this is what they said after the war and after the king was beheaded. Die tussen 4,000 and 5,000 krijgsgevangenes van die stammen van Cholobolo, Mamatloli, Ushotli en Makgoba voorlopig in die Pretoria district op de regeringsplas Bles. Geplaatst tussen de locaties van Swartboy and Hans Makapa. So the remnant few that survived were put in a government farm in Bles. And if you go to Bles today, it's still it belongs to the city of Pretoria. And if you go to Bles and you watch the tombstones, you will see the Makhobas that were born many years ago, that died in the 70s. It is quite And the aim was the Makhobas, Cusan who wrote South African War, says the Makhobas were supposed to be distinguished and never to rise again. But here we are. And so let me locate myself, Thabo Makgoba, Archbishop of the Anglican Church in Pretoria. I am one of those whose parents, great-great-parents, were thrown in Bless, and my parents moved to Alexander Township, and some moved to Arankua when Arankua was developed. I grew between Alex and Pimville. Pimville came because I was forced removals of the people of Alex in 1974. I grew between Pimville and Sharpeville. My mother came from Sharpeville. My father, his name is Masilo, born in 1910 in Tlhabine. He was a ZCC priest, was one of those that helped to establish the ZCC church. Masilo is son of Makhanyu, my grandfather, born in 1885, son of Madiadia. And if you go deep into who's Madiadia, Baba Mbambiza Puledi, Baba Mbambiza Makhanyu, Baba Mbambiza, sorry, Baba Mbambiza Mamphoku, Baba Mbambiza something, but that is not the point I want to say. He was not an ordinary leader, he was a healer and a leader. He healed not only our physical wounds, but he healed the spirit of this community. So when we talk about the Makhobas that side, we say, Ito Holo, and so Makhanyu, my grandfather, married Sikebedu, Muradua Makwaha. And so these generations, I'm mentioning them because these generations have contributed to the story of Tlhabine, to the story of Hamatabata, to the story of the Malekos, and to the stories of the Makhobas beyond. And over the years, they've spread our story, and thanks also, and our knowledge and traditions all over. And even if we were displaced, our legacy, I think, is stronger. And so today we gather for something larger than one family, something larger than one lineage, something larger than one village. We are here as Baraba Makgoba in all shapes and sizes, joined by others who will help us to reflect in how we find the head, how humbly we get the pots and the remains at Ditsong, which are far away, come and bury them here. I started this journey with Frank many years ago, and Frank, thank you so much. Our daughter was very young, so when we went and saw that skull, when we went and saw the remains, and when Kgosi Makgoba refused to accept that the skull is indeed of Mamphoku because the DNA test wasn't 100% what they wanted. We will come back to that. But as Mukupane said, the journey has not been about the skull only. The journey has been about how do we rectify things like Baribitsa Hama Hoiba, which is Afrikaans Makgoba. You can understand, in Afrikaans is no KG. There is Makgoba, Makgoba's proof. It's Makgoba. So we started a very small process through the Limpopo geographic name change. And we said, R71, can it be named Makgoba's Kloof Road and Makgoba Kloof Dam? And the process was wonderful because in a small way it brought the Makhobas together And the name change was taken to Pretoria when Minister Nati. It was gazetted and it was approved because there were no objections. So please, you wonderful connected people, speak to Sandra. Because all Sandra needs to do is to remove the E and put the K. So we start at a practicality level, but at that level. So that is why now we've also gone and said, that mountain what we call Mabele, the Bengeni Falls. What is the Bengeni? So we've applied to say, hey, there's nothing like the Bengeni Falls. So there are those little things of really bringing the community together by looking at the cultural aspect. But we will, let me just go towards closure. But those are some...
Okay, before you close,
Yes.
sorry. You know, when something nice is said, it's nice to just clap hands, you know? So we're clapping hands because the name Makgoba's proof, everything is fine. We just left with the practicality of it, which is removing the boards. If I was like I was gonna remove the boards and be like, no come.
You don't want them to arrest you. You're going to do it. Yeah. Thank you so much. So I wrote a little book, as Makgoba says. One Makgoba may tell this story, another this one, but all those stories about the Makhobas and from a perspective of where they come from. So I hope we will give a copy to Lira, Ditsong, and whoever else. I didn't bring too many concrete charts. But I hope. And the book is called Faith and Courage, Praying with Nelson Mandela. Because just before Madiba died, I was asked to accompany him quietly as a pastor to help him accept a death. So I write from that perspective, and I write some of the prayers that I shared with him. But I don't go deep because there is also pastoral confidence that I needed to respect. But the family did say, you have to write something. So my Ruping has got only six copies. But that book, why I brought it, who panicked? Because his great-grandparents were in the valley when Makgoba was killed. And he showed me an advert of a museum in Germany where Makgoba's war artifacts, the drum and the scarf, were on sale. On sale. That pained me. That pained me. I mean, I still have goosebumps when I do that.
I'm getting goosebumps as well.
So I followed the journey to a place in Germany called Leck, L-E-C-K. And the place where the family that bought or the family that took those artifacts. And let me deviate in Makgoba Hanyan. That family still has the original black and white photos of the Makhobas here. Black and white photos of the war. One of the terrifying photos is, I'm not sure if it's the king himself. They said as well as it beheaded him, but we know. So he's lying down there, and then I'm not sure if he's dead. They want to prove that he's dead. They've got a snake, they put it next to his face, and that it proved that he's dead. So we're journeying with that family, and should something come out, that's where I'm telling to Ditsong, repatriation and Sarah, to say maybe together with the ambassador of Germany, you've got the devices, Ms. Puteres, maybe we can do this and sense if there are bones in the skull where it's supposed to be thrown. I went and I just took a stone from that place and brought it here as his mentor. So, but let me leave that one. But I think the task today, as I conclude, is about Makgoba, Kamuka. Let's each tell our story. We all have a story to tell. Let's talk to the elders and put these stories together. Let's build this once a great nation, and let us decide, if possible today, where will the remains that are in Ditsong be buried, and let's agree who of the Makhobas that are here can have their DNA put somewhere there, so that whatever the skull that we receive, either from Ditsong or we receive from Germany, can be tested with one of the descendants that are alive today. And then tourism here could make that place where we have buried them to listen to the records of their story, to listen to Kukumansa, Barreta, whilst they are still alive, please. And then our story can be great. You will see that I've deliberately left the piece that makes us to fight, R71, where it is fertile, it's got all the farms that we were compensated for, and we're not moving on that one. I'm on the religious and the cultural aspect, and on searching for the king's head. So with those words, I thank you.
Thank you. There's nothing to add. I'm not adding anything on that. But I want to mention a few things. So their story, I'm not the only person who's looking at their story. I have my colleague, Lebrang. Lebrang and I, we met 2021, if I'm not mistaken, 2021, 2020. So I didn't even know him. So we were three initially. So I was taking the other partner. So we started the two of us because we were just naturally interested in the politics of the Makhobas and everything. Those ones you won't know from me. I'm not speaking politics of fighting and everything. I'm speaking politics of peace. So with the guy, and we were speaking, and I told him, I'm like, we need to start recording because we're doing something else, so we're transitioning now. And I'm like, so how are we gonna get all these people of the Makhobas? He's like, no, don't worry. There's a person, and that person is called Leborang. And I wanna say, and I wanna acknowledge Leborang, that had it not been for you, this wouldn't be possible. Because through Leborang, that's when we got to know that's when we got to like do the practical things. So I wanna also, acknowledge him. The first time we went to shoot, it was on the 18th of April. So, so I don't know this person. We don't even have a car. Like, we don't have a budget. We just people who are interested in. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So, got 2021, got the 18th of April, and then we're gonna shoot for the first time. So he comes, we meet. He's like, okay, who are we meeting? What about this person that we're going to meet? And then we go there. Tell you what, I think the car was not working, right? And then this very same phone, it's very precious, it takes quality videos, and then I have a video. And that was the start of it. And we are here today because of his contributions. Mostly when you watch their story, you never get to hear about him because he's either behind the camera or he's holding the book. He's the one who does the research for us. So maybe we can take this moment, if you're not jealous, clap hands. Then, okay, we did that, and that's when AM, it's African Media Group, then they come in. Then I'm like, Kokicho, listen, now I want to have a YouTube channel, and this is what we're going to do. Now we don't have money. Like, okay, I thought he was gonna be uptight and everything, but he's like, no, it's fine, I get your vision, we'll do it. And from there, he came and we did our introduction video, and then for the first time on the 23rd, 23rd April, 2021, Kimori posted our first video with the help of AM Group. I don't know if Lazivana, but to actually shoot content, it's very expensive. And I can tell you for a fact that since 2021 to today, 2025, I've never paid AM Group a thing. So can we also take this we clapped too quickly. So yeah, can we take this opportunity and please acknowledge and recognize Kgoshi Mamphoku of AM Group. Alright, thank you. So now we are moving, we're going on item number 6. And we welcome Joseph Makgoba. Utlori tlhalosetsa what he has to tlhalosa. Yes, can we please clap hands as we welcome Joseph Makgoba.
Stage frightening. I'm a very shy type. I'm usually behind the scene most of the time when I do things. So today, you put me in a very difficult position. My name is Joseph Gaspedi Mabule. Everyone Ratabara Mabule Pelaitsu. Kuna Mora Musima. Musima ke Morelia wa Mahake. Joseph Makgoba, and she and another one's about our pipe. You have to make it Spiritual, we are not good friends. So I wrote something here. I don't know if you will try to translate somehow.
Yeah, translate.
But before I go any further, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the Honorable Archbishop Thabo Makgoba. It's actually the first time we meet. The representative from the Department of Sports. I don't know if I'm late. And the South African Heritage Resource Agency and the Ditsong Museum. We are gathered here today to confront a deep and enduring wound within the Makgoba community. The unresolved matter of Kgoshi Mamphoku Makgoba's missing hand. In 1895, Kgoshi Mamphoku Makgoba, a leader of immense courage and vision, was brutally assassinated. This tragic event was further compounded by the desecration of his remains, the disappearance of his head, an act that continues to resonate with profound spiritual and historical significance. The loss of a leader is always a heavy blow, but the circumstances surrounding Kgoshi Mamphoku's death and the subsequent disappearance of his head have had a particularly devastating impact on the Makgoba clan. In many African cultures, the head is considered as a seat of the soul, embodying wisdom and leadership, and a vital link to one's ancestors. The absence of Kgoshi Mamphoku's head is therefore not merely a physical loss,
It is a profound spiritual disruption, severing the connection between present generation and their forefathers, leaving a void that cannot be easily filled. This disruption has impacted the spiritual continuity of the clan, leaving a void that resonates even today. This act of desecration is not merely a historical footnote, it is a present-day injustice and impacts the Makgoba's clan and our collective healing. The disappearance of Kgoshi Mamphoku's head has become a potent symbol of unresolved trauma, historical injustice suffered by the Makgoba clan. A stark reminder of a disrespect and dehumanization inflicted upon our leader and our community, particularly during the apartheid era, which systematically sought to erase our history, culture, and identity. It is a wound that cannot heal until we confront it directly. The recovery of Kgoshi Mamphoku's head is therefore not just a matter of the clan, it is a matter of a national importance. It is a crucial step in acknowledging the atrocities of the past and working towards the true reconciliation. Finding Kgoshi Mamphoku's head is therefore not merely about recovering a physical object, it is about healing historical wounds. Returning the head would be a significant step towards acknowledging the injustice of the past, fostering healing and reconciliation. Secondly, it's about honoring Kgoshi Mamphoku's legacy. Finding his head would be a powerful tribute to his memory, his contributions to the Makgoba clan and broader South African society. To achieve this, a united effort from the Makgoba community, coupled with the crucial support from the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture and the South African Heritage Resource Agency, is paramount. This responsibility cannot be borne by a single family or individual. It depends on collective action, fueled by a shared commitment to justice and healing. We must collaborate to uncover the truth, diligently pursue all avenues of investigation, and ensure that the legacy of injustice is appropriately addressed. This necessitates a commitment from all South Africans to contribute, to confront the past, acknowledge its enduring impact, and strive towards a future where such injustices are never repeated. In conclusion, let us commit ourselves today to the pursuit of justice for Kgoshi Mamphoku and his clan. Let us stand united in our effort to recover his head and to heal the wounds of the past. Let us work together to build a future where all of us can live with dignity, respect, and a restored sense of historical and spiritual continuity.
Spirituality semoya le sone se affectebile ka gore batho ge ba robedi ba sa robala ka kgotso. As African people re believer mo re na le go ya le go phasa o ya go phasa bjang go le dlozi ke le dlozi ka nna badimo ba e le gore a ba robala ga botse ka phiri. So for as long as re sa khumana tsogo ya Mamphoku re ka se tsogile re bile le peace. Botlhoko bo re bo boleng as family re ka se tsoge re kgonne go bo amogela So ka mantswe a mangwe o ra gore taba ya tlhogo a se fela eno because re ka e tshwara ra e boloka e re affecta go feta kore le mo semoyeng ya re tshwenye ene go bolela nnete ka mogololong kwa lengwe ka mokgwa sekofi ka mokgwa letsebang ka gone e no bontšha gore go ka se be le peace for as long as Kgoshi Mamphoku a sa robala ka kgotso a ka se robale ka kgotso e le gore memory ya gage e disrespecting a go sanka gwa dudiwa gwa reng dilo tsela di diregileng kwa morago ra di dula and for as long as dilo tseo re sa di dira go ka se ba go bile le peace. So this one is a fun fact of us as their story. We pride ourselves with this. Re ikgantšha ka gore sa le mola their story e thoma ka 2021. Number one, the name e fetotšwe e correctile. As much as re sa kgone go e bona mo ditseleng mara rena ra tseba le bona ba tseba gore Makgoba Skloof ke Makgoba Skloof ba e ngwadile gabotse le ka no bothata and ye nngwe e re ke pridang ka yone the other one that we pride ourselves with mo Makgoba Skloof before 2021 ba go sena letšatši le le gore di 9 November it was a normal day ko Makgoba Skloof. But since the birth of their story, the 9 November is the day that we commemorate our great king, Kgoshi Mamphoku. And this one also, this process, Asanka Gabona anyway, besides in the book, ArchBishop, Asanka Gabona the only time I give warning, the only time where I saw the head of Mamphoku, it was in an article, in the Times article, where they were speaking about that Kgoshi Makgoba rejected the head. So today, we pride ourselves, for we are here and we're speaking about it freely so, and we're making progress. Okay, latecomers, and then, so now, as we said, they said Kgoshi Makgoba couldn't join us with the reasons that they said. Re tlo kgopela gore re amogele ba Ditsong. So I can say ba Ditsong gore go tlo tla. Okay, re kgopela, can we please welcome Frank Richard from Ditsong?
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you to the elders. Thank you to whoever is here from the royal family of Makgoba. Thank you very much for having me, and Archbishop, thank you. So I need to give a little bit of history about where we are, or where we came from, dealing with the issue of trying to find Makgoba's head. In 2000, this process has been going along for quite some time, probably more than 20 years. We've been trying to find the head of Chief Makgoba. And the collection that we have two types of human remains at Ditsong, at the Cultural History Museum. We have one set that is archaeological, which falls under permits from SARA and which is done scientifically and correctly within the law. Then we have unethically collected human remains that were unethically collected by the sins of our fathers, or my fathers in other words, not your fathers, but my fathers. They were very naughty. So they were collected from freshly buried bodies. They were collected from different parts of the world and of the country. The reason why they were collected was the Transvaal Museum in those days is now part of Ditsong, but the old Transvaal Museum has a paleontological department where they study fossils and that. And the bright idea was then to use these human remains as a comparative collection for the paleontological department. And they were always, these human remains were collected under very dubious and unethically. Okay? So that collection of unethically collected human remains was kept at Transvaal Museum until about 2000, 2002, when I took over the archaeology department, or joined the archaeology department and I took over the human remains collection. We decided to place all the human remains under one museum and in one collection when Transvaal Museum became part of Ditsong. I heard about the search for Chief Makgoba's head about 2003 when I was contacted by the then descendant and who was working at the prison. He was deputy director of the prison, Kgoshi Mamphoku prison. He was actively searching, and because when the human remains were at Transvaal Museum, unfortunately the museum was not willing to help him. They tried to hum and haw because in that time the museums did not want to admit that they had these unethically collected human remains. So he came to speak to me once he heard that the human remains had been transferred to the Cultural History Museum, and I started working closely with him to try and help the family and try and find the human remains. Now, at that stage, he and the rest of the people involved were not very confident with the museum. They thought that we were trying to be nasty with them. Not nasty, but trying to hide everything. In the meantime, I was trying to help find some sort of resolution to the issue that they had. So I came with an idea of contacting the University of Pretoria, an outside group, to come and do research on those unethically collected human remains. So on the 14th of July 2005, the anatomy department, and now the forensic department at University of Pretoria, they came to the museum and they tested all the skulls from the unethically collected human remains that we have in our collection. What they were looking for is males over the age of 40 that would fit in the time frame of the age of Kgoshi Makgoba. So out of the skulls that we have, they found 10 male skulls over the age of 40, and the idea then was to transfer these 10 skulls to the forensic anthropology section of the South African Police Services. And because there is a photograph of Kgoshi after his head was, after he was decapitated, there is a photograph, and what the police do then is to try and identify human remains of people. They blow up the picture of the photograph, and then they take the skull and they try and fit it inside the cavities. So basically, the eyes should line up, the nose cavities should line up, the ear holes should line up, and then they have a decent. It could be that person. Out of everything, this is probably the person that they were looking for. So that's what they did, and there's certain indicators within the skull. And the report states that out of the 10 skulls, there was one skull that aligned perfectly with the eyes, the nose, the ears, and it's all in this document, and I'll give it to you once I'm finished. Out of the skulls that were tested, there was one skull that could be that of Kgoshi Makgoba, sorry. I'm putting the back of my head. Then, once it's not 100%, and as the I'll read the conclusion of this document to you, so you get a better understanding of what I'm trying to say. This document was done by the University of Pretoria. The museum had nothing to do with it. So all the results came from the University of Pretoria. Because the museum was not trusted in giving or trying to help the family, that's why we got an outside group to do it. So the conclusion and recommendations are as such. Although it is not possible to say with 100% certainty that the skull is that of Makgoba, there is no biological evidence to suggest that the skull is not that of the deceased. Okay, meaning that it could be him. Should the family decide not to accept the skull as being that of the deceased, it should be noted that there are no other remains in the museum that could be that of Makgoba. Okay? In other words, if you're not happy, and if the family is not happy with this skull, there's no other skulls or human remains within the museum that could be him. Okay? We also had a meeting with family members from Makgoba clan, and they remember, some of them remember in the 1970s, that there was an exhibition at the museum where the skull was, at Transvaal Museum, where the skull was displayed. Okay? And they remember it with still flesh on it. Okay? Now, none of the human remains that we have at the museum have flesh on. Now, the family members did not want to accept the skull at that time for two reasons. The one reason is that it didn't have flesh, and the second reason, somebody in pencil on top of the skull wrote Zulu. Okay. Now, as I said, the sins of my forefathers. No, there is no documentation to any of those human remains. We don't even know where some of them come from. Well, we don't know where all of them come from. We don't know who they belong to. Okay? Unfortunately, this is what happened. Okay? And with new policies and new legislation that is coming out or has come out, we are trying to hopefully one day be able to answer other people's quests also to find their loved ones. So there was a discussion at the time to say, but there are other avenues in Germany, which I found out now that there is a skull in Germany, which is the first time I'm actually hearing about that. But the skull was rejected, and I think that was somebody mentioned that the skull was rejected because it had that Zulu in pencil, not pen, and anybody could have written that. Okay? And then the other said, but there was flesh on the human remains. Now, at the time, Transvaal Museum has an archaeozoological department where they look at animal bones. Now, they used to get donations from animals that had passed away at the zoo, for example, and those animals were then put into the collection, but they couldn't have the flesh on the animal bones, so they had a place where they could boil the bone, the meat off the bones. And this is what I think has happened to all the skulls that we have in our collection, that the flesh was boiled off, and therefore that's the reason why the skull does not have flesh on it. Okay? Now, unfortunately, with that, DNA does get destroyed, but there is a very small possibility that one is able to find DNA within the teeth bones, because the teeth get stuck in, and sometimes the DNA stays within the tooth cavities. So there is maybe a very small possibility to have that tested for DNA. The other, and I'm hoping that even if they do not find DNA within that skull, that the skull that's from Germany, one can maybe then do DNA on that skull. If that skull comes back as a positive to it being the chief, then you have your answer. But if not, then the possibility of this skull being that of Chief Makgoba, even though you haven't done DNA, because according to the scientists here, they believe that this skull could be not 100%, but it's the closest that they can get to being that of Chief Makgoba. So I'm hoping that after, I think, 20, 30 years of trying to find his skull, and the family for 130 years trying to retrieve it back, I'm hoping that we can conclude this episode and people will be able to rest in peace and be happy, and wealth and everything that comes with it. Thank you very much.
Unethical, ke mokgwa moo. Like, ever was that in one ethical? Like, I don't really know. But unethical, ke mokgwa moo. Like, what's that in motor troka? Kore a tsamaye ka buka. O ja ka mokgwa ena a ka bona. So ge a ntse a bolela molare unethical. Ore go na le ditlhogo tse e le goreng di tšerwe ka mekgwa e mebe. And ka mokgwa le goreng tlhogo ya Mamphoku e tšerwe ka gona, e tšerwe le yona ka mokgwa o mobe. Bere ebile go be go na le ditlhogo tše di tšerweng ka mekgwa e mebe, tše e le goreng di be di le ka Transvaal Museum. Godimo ga ditlhogo tšeo e tšerweleng gona, ba ile ba di lebelela, ba leka tše e le goreng ke tša banna ba go ba ka godimo ga 40. Ge ba fetša go khumana tše e le goreng ke tša banna ba godimo ga 40, ba kry-ile ke 10. Ge ba fetša go di tšea, ba re di ša sephodiseng. Ba sephodisa, ba di tšea ditlhogo tšela ba di lebelela ka moka ga tšona, ka mokgwa e ba di yang ka gona dilo tša bona tša maphodisa. Ba di lebelela, ba khumana tlhogo e tee, ye e le goreng ba tshepa gore e ka ba yona ya Mamphoku. Bjale, tlhogo ele e sentse gore ba e fe batho ba ga Makgoba. Batho ba ga Makgoba ba ba botša gore tlhogo e a re 100% sure gore ke yona, mara a gona selo se se reng a se yona. A re 100% sure gore ke yona, gore di-chances tša gore ke yona di gona, mara re ka se re sure gore ke yona ya gage. Mara e be go sena selo se se ka šupang gore a se yona. I'm stuck there. There was no biological reason gore ba ska believer gore a se yona. And that was in 2005. 20 years from now. From then to now. I want to hearing I see on.
Explain something quickly. So the flesh that they're talking about is obviously to keep it from rotting. They would put salt all over it. The salt would draw out the water and would dry so it would look like a buckskin that has been, it looks like leather. And that's, I think, what they're talking about, having flesh on it. It's not proper flesh, but it's the skin from the dried. And so they call that curing the meat. When you cure meat, you put salt on it to dry it out. And that's what they did to transport the head from here to Pretoria. Otherwise it will go rotten. And the flies and insects and all that. So that's what I mean. And I think that's what the people remembered when they came to see it at the museum. And then at some stage it was taken and I think boiled off. So that's the kind of concept.
Godimo ka tlogela re ka nna ra se kgone go dira di-DNA ka lebaka la gore ba Ditsong ba believe gore go ka ba le goreng ba kile ba se bidisha gore ba ntshe dinama tse di beng mo godimo ka tlhogo eo e tshube ina le dingwana. And then ba re ge le re go diwa di-DNA di ka humaniwa mo leinong ka re ke yone le gore e kgone go dula leino ke lone le kgone go dula le sebaka le ge ba boila mola di-DNA di ka ba le gore ke sa go gona ke nagana gore ke tlhalositse gabotse. So before Mr. Tritchet started talking, we were joined by Jimmy Kubiana, Arkiana, former Makgoba Community Trust, and then Mali Tepo Mali Bati, Ujaga T Estate Sapiko, and then Rebecca Mafa, Lena Ujaga Sapiko. And then Kyokopera who Amurena, Mushumi Ka Frank, Ujani Ditsong, Barki Doctor, Siaso.
Ke rata go dumedisa setšhaba se se tletseng ka mo ntlong ke a le dumedisa ditlou nna ke nna motsane wa ga Sebela gae ke ga Mamabolo Pretoria ke ile ka mešomo ke theletše e ba reta rena re batokwa riana nkwe re batho ba bo Matšhaka Maimela so ke kwele le bolela gore ke nna batho ba bo Matšhaka Maimela ke gotse re dula le batho ba Makgoba ke ditou ke batho ba e leng gore ba gona ba dutse le dikolobe tša ga Mamabolo bommatima ke bokoko nna bomamalia ke batho ba bo rena so go tlaga ka mo a ilo ba gore ke taba ya mošomo fela nna e ke bereka le Frank ke curator ya anthropology maragane bjale ke swere as the acting director ya the Cultural History Museum e ba re ke doctor ya tša setšo heritage and museum studies that's what I do, that's what I study and specialize in. So for rena particularly a nako ya bjale le a tseba go bolelwa ka decolonization ke merekorudia ke ntwa yeo ke reality ya gore it's not an easy task because dilo tse dintsi tša batho ba bo rena di tšerwe ka dikgoka go sena gore ya kgopela ke la gore re tlo tšea wa nyaka o nyake lefase bo digagara tša batho ba bo rena di dutše mafatsheng all over the world because of batho ba batšhong ba ba fitlheng ba re we are going to take things whether you like it or not. so ke ntwa e re lwang it's not just, it's personal because as a black person, whether you like it or not, you are affected and impacted by everything that has happened to our ancestors. Se sengwe ke kgopela gore le re inele matsogo metsing, re kgopela re ncancae gore le ile la tla Ditsong la se hwetše thušo ka nako e leng la boya bo Archbishop ya gore e ba tsena then le hwetša thušo. A ke aka ka tseba gore go ne taba ya bokobo bja motobeng e dirileng, re ncancae le re swareleng e ka sa diega ka gore re tlo sepela tsela ye le lena go ba go fitlha mafelelong, re tlo le thekga ka go kgonegang, although taba ya go re tlhoka SARA go make sure re latela molao gore sebe sa lena se se boye, mme re kwa rena go le support ka mokgwa re ka kgonang le gona gore mo go stakang re kgone go thuša gore batho ba nyaka dilo tša bona. Museum ke concept ya motho mošweu, ke environment e creatileng ke a white man, it's not ours. Rena dilo tša rene re sa di tswalele in a building e di phela le rena freely go sena gore we are preserving, we are conserving. Black people have always been preserving and conserving, and they have the skill to pass it on. It's who we are, it's always been who we are. But the museums, batho ba bo rena ba sana access to their traditions, to culture still already frozen in museums. So I'm saying we are here for you. Le re le ka nyaka go tseba ka tše dingwe re tlo le thekga and support you in whatever way ye re ka kgonang. Ke rata go leboga their story se se mokokobale go lebogang le ba bangwe ba e leng gore ba bereka le lena go emelela and le nyake go tseba ka taba ya Kgoshi Mamphoku. Ke re le sefele maatla mara ke a kwa gore ga ona gore le fele maatla amandla. So ene le rena re tla leka go le kopantšha le ba rena ka gore a se rena institution ya go supporta batho in terms of funding, mara re ka le kopantšha le ba e leng gore ba ne tšhelete ba kgona gore ba funde National Heritage Council ke bona e le gore ba ne kgona gore ba thuše heritage projects. So ke supporting we ye ka ithušang in just getting you in touch le batho ba e leng ba ka kgona go thuša. Ke nyaka go bolela mission wa Ditsong Museums of South Africa ke go to acquire, to preserve, exhibit and engage the public. Mara o acquire o ga go get as Frank a se ja boletše o go mo ebese ga e be ga go se tsebalega go swana le gana le gore o ka tia tlhogo ya motho mara wa e beya wa re sure ra bona gore go dirileng ke evidence ke dilo tša go swana le mo toloweng, mara go ne tše dingwe le tšona tše ba di bitšang di-objects e leng gore ke taba ya lamoedi e re berekišiwa le lona ke gore re ka se botše dilo tša borena di-objects. O ka se re objects a se re e ile gore ke lefetlo and re swantse gore re se ka tloa re re what cooking spoon or stirring what re swantse go bolela dilo ka polelo ya borena because ke tša rena. So as Ditsong Museums of Africa re berekana le framework ya gore re thušane le SARA, re thušane le community museum go village for anything, and fortunately and unfortunately re dutše le ke di bitša inherited obsessions because dilo tše dingwe tše they were just acquired, like just taking and taking gore ke nyaka go mo ba le dilo tše. So it was like an obsession ya gore we are just going to take and take and take and take until re ba le di-million and as motho o moso nna ke dutse le position e ke beng le yona e le gore privileged ke responsibility ya ka to do my bit go lokiša mo re ka lokišang ke kwele gore gagane bjale le celebrate the 9th of November like commemorate and if le ka re gopela invite le se re lebale eta ke bona gata e re ka bona November e le thoma le re le bitse re pele go potse ra gopela gore le re meme and le rena re tlo ba le morero at the museum because ba ba sa tsebeng mo museum o beng gona e be Ditsong the original Pretoria prison mo e leng gore Kgoshi Mamphoku, and I think that's why Kgoshi Mamphoku a mo mogopolong wa gae because Kgoshi Mamphoku o la mola bo Kgoshi Nyabela ba swere mola bo Kgoshi Malebogo ba feletše mola ke magoši a mangwe so this event re bitša ona magoši le ba botša gore ke dilo tše re di swereng so definitely re tlo le bitša gore magoši tsebang a re berekišaneng batho ba bangwe ba re if re thoma gore repatriation batho ba tšea dilo and the restitution dilo di boela go beng and then e ra gore re tlo felela ke mebereko mmereko o ka se fele ka gore le ge batho ba tšere dilo tša bona o tlo no dula o inedi story e nngwe le nngwe story se sengana bjale e le gore e process e fela tlogo ya Kgoshi Mamphoku e boela morago o tlo no dula o inedi tše re di kweleng ka mokamo o tlo phela se gona story se gongwe ke nako ya gore dilo di boele go beng re šale ka di-story tše mmereko wa rena e taba ya gona e re a preserva re a tlhokomele di-story tša batho ba boi e reng and then Archbishop also mentioned the issue of the black and white photographs. I'm also interested in that in Germany because repatriation is not just human remains and objects, but the manuscripts and all these archives still, or they are in the different parts of the world. They should remain with the digital copies and whatever. Right now we should keep this the originals as communities, as the country. So I'm interested in that, and I would like to really inquire and probe more on. And yeah, more than anything, so more go ema go iba bothata le ska ba gore le ska ba la nagana gabedi le re founileng re tlo ba gona le mo e leng gore ba bangwe ba berekišane ba rena ba beng di-department tše dingwe mongwe le ba le problem le rena re tla tsena ra thuša le mošomo wa rena gore yalo ke tla ruma ya leboga.
I got so emotional, and then I got more emotional when speaking about funding. Like, oh my God, our answers, our prayers are answered. Because one thing I didn't mention is that their story, it's not a community-founded project. It's just the two of us. Maybe this meeting but because of and certain things began to be delayed. And history we're going to tell the history of people must know Kgoshi Mamphoku. We're going to tell the history of Everybody Yeah, I can really know. I don't know challenge. Mara, but yeah, would really love to speak more about that. If there are any avenues we can explore and anything that we can do and that can help this to grow. And I hope Kgoshi o ka re batho ba ga Makgoba ntwe la ba boditseng yone ya gore ge le ka bolela ka history ya ga Makgoba re tlo le bolai o ka re ba ka bona ka rena gore re sa phela and we are still telling the stories of Makgoba. There's more we want to tell. There's places that we want to visit just around Makgoba's roof, but we are unable to because we are not financially able. The energy is there, the eagerness to do it is there, but yeah. Back in the days, we used to travel to Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Charles Modiba.
Na mandroaka kitno fama liga mararo kerata utiasu bakase kiwe ba their stories cha Makgoba abathu ile ka lesimishiti ta ona ka tlhogo ya mogala wa rebushe mogale re le ba gore ya dipapadi ba go le setlo re tsele le tsweng ba le rena re ina meet training re tsa mešana le na go ba le ba go feta mafelo ene se sengwe le go dithuso tla ba le nya ka from rena se department re bona tla bona ka go gona ka ona ke dukia sebaka se ke fe Professor Makgoba, the chairperson of Limpopo State Resources Authority, ka ge re ba mandate le department gore ba etetse tša go kwa mo Limpopo province gore le yena tla fe a mabedi a mararo ke
Archbishop Makgoba, Sarah, Ditsong, Mushat, Aga Makgoba, Dido, Nohuya the Lodge. Rena, we are a statutory body in the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. Mandate to Arena is to advise the MEC on matters of heritage. So we've got a direct link. And I go over the MEC. We make an appointment, Gatsela, director, the MEC, and then sales secretary. Now, what I want to say is, perhaps before Kizena, I give you cool and not Wagam the setup. Landogia bag. Gigwagamu, Tavine, Girabre, Naramu, Boya, Napusia, Marke, and then you know, oh, Calevelela. Kinagariba Musatavan Vaita. O Kalevele, Vanaba Makgoba, Pataleji, all over. And then tell it is out to Moiluru Kari, Ki Vana Vailurin, Havana, Motswadi, Uba Motswadi. Nikila Lavona, Galila Tokofella, Mala Tokofella, Papa. You are just scattered all over. And municipal now, even where you are going to sleep, you don't even know where you are going to get, you are next to me. And this is pathetic. and we really appreciate the efforts. Ke nnete re feta mo re ya ka mo re no tore ba re o bolaile gana dithietša sa piko se tšile ra di bona bona no re filo mo fertile bjane mabudu ba dia tšhelete and beng ba lefelo ba kae. This is very, very painful. However, we are in the new era where we must make our own history. And then doors are open. And then let's make sure that the mistake of the past is rectified. And again, Bamafu, you will never decide your destination as long as you don't know your history. You don't know where you are coming from. So I think this is a very, very good initiative. And then Rena, as Lira, based on our mandate, we fully support you. We've got Sarah, here Lori is our mother body, and we work hand in hand to live on her. So we are like the directors indicated, we are more than willing to support you. Remember, Rena, as Lira, our mandate is to nurture, identify, and even also recognize new heritage site. Now, if you've got a new heritage site, yellow ring, you have identified it, we tell you the procedure, what is it that must be done, and then Renamile through our committee, then Kimgari Namile identifier, even listed in the SARI, South African Heritage Resources Information Systems. If I honor, record it's our responsibility. We are always available. Why are we doing that? Why? We want to preserve your heritage, like I spoke about yesterday. Ukasipambe wabatotsi usazi urupamba uijwakai. Upamba uijwakai, and that is very, very much important. And we've been misled, to neglect, our own culture. We have got always to shun our own history. Always hidden Archbishop Thabo Makgoba, I'm happy because even on the TV, he supports us already. We cannot really, I listened to you one day when they were interviewing you over how the issue of religion started in the family, and I heard you repeating it today. So, and it's very important, Tori. You know yourself, you know who you are, you know where you are coming from, in order to chart your way forward. Otherwise, if you don't know your history, then you will not let away matter. And you are so blessed. And please, the refugee, keep them, record them. I remember where now is on the wobble. We record, that's the next generation in America global this information. And please nurture them, take care of them. Like I said, I'm checking it. Gasra let's worry. Legas do Mamphoku. Let's have Tomala Mutsibisha Reata. The global Lagarita Jao. And then that is our woman. And then to Payaba to Valley, Ega better. Yes, and Elena, Leazeva. So we are Ariang Luce for Lobatan Gamuswan, what the Mahono Oka Oscar Timele. And Arena, again in collaboration with Limpopo Tourism Agency, the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. We are collaborating, working together in terms of the identification of the museum sites with the intention outright to promote tourism. And once you start now having a statue, and I believe this is Loba sa fencelwa, avoid the incidents we'll make sure if a heritage site, when tourists are coming, going down the valley to Kruger National Park, what's the Ronale statue Samahu? We are more than willing to support you, because right now we want our heritage to be preserved, our heritage to be promoted. And look at the connection, yeah, Africa and Germany about Makgoba. And some may, travel all the way from Germany to come, and see, his grave, and then, a national, international heritage site. We are more than prepared to support you. I mean, once we put it at that level, obviously, the whole world must know about that. And then, in conclusion, I looked at the National Heritage Act. You spoke about it. National Heritage Council. And we leave out National Heritage Council. It must be part. Again. And the interesting part, I'm a connecting link. I also sit in National Heritage Council. The MEC recommended me as the chairperson of LIRA to be part of the National Heritage Council. And the coming 2 weeks, we are a new board. We started November, we are going to develop our strategic plan. The past 3 days, we are attending meetings, trying to, because National Heritage Council is hanging somewhere. It's hanging, it's hanging somewhere. And then it's an avian, because now we know if I got anything, I go straight to SAR. And that is how we work. And what we want to do now is we want to, the new chairperson introduced a subcommittee of provincial representatives. So we sit as provincial representatives, share issues within our provinces. Limpopo ba Makgoba ba re banyaka gore National Heritage Council e ba thushe. And that means because Valley, every meeting last week, they want to finance projects, money province, and they cannot just come like a parachute lender. Our connector. So be rest assured, as LIRA will support you, and one day that we celebrate when we shall be opening officially the heritage site. Thank you.
Yeah, but somewhere, again, only more than Mamphoku. Celebrate again name. Okay, item number 10, Retro Amorela South African Heritage Resources Agency. Give Mr. Troy. Engavija Sifanise Kosibucha.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good day to everyone. Unfortunately, my CPD speaking skills are like almost zero. Thank you very much for the opportunity. we have listened to all the speeches, the inputs that have been made here today, and the work that is being done by the young people is quite impressive. And indeed, we all have stories to tell. Some or most are not good when it comes to our ancestors. Earlier, she was asking me how to spell my surname because she was looking at my first name and she thought my surname was Pili. I said, no, it's Pili. And when I won't bother to tell my story, it's not a good story also. It relates to my ancestors. But fortunately, my ancestor, where she's buried, her remains are complete. The grave is known, and it's not the same. We cannot quantify pain, but it's not similar to the pain of descendants that have to live through their entire lives knowing that their ancestors' remains were violated, and they don't even know that in violation of those human remains, where are the rest of the other parts of the body kept, or where they were actually taken. But I'm quite happy that with Kgoshi Makgoba there are certain leads from what the Archbishop was telling us about that German link, and the story that my colleague Frank was telling us about what sort of research has been done at Ditsong. I'm quite hopeful and positive that something is going to come out of it. And I also want to echo what my colleague Dr. Siabela was saying, that please invite us in the annual commemoration so that we keep the momentum going. And as my colleague Professor Makgoba was saying, use us as well as yes, there are a link. They communicate with us, they communicate with National Heritage Council. National Heritage Council, they're mostly focused on research and assisting communities with availing funding to conduct research. And they're also running a program called the National Resistance and Liberation Heritage Route, which means with the sites and the history of Kgoshi Makgoba, who was attacked and defeated because he was protecting his own people. So he must have been put up quite a fierce fight against invaders. Hence he was treated in that manner. He wasn't one of the collaborators with the colonial forces. So there are sites that are connected to him that should form part of that project. It's not only a national project, it's a continental project that was endorsed by the African Union. So whatever sites that are there that relate to him, his house, the battlefield, where he lies buried, that's part of the heritage trail. And indeed, as the Prof has said, such sites might be of national heritage significance. They might even be declared as part of the World Heritage listing, which means they'll be protected by UNESCO, which is part of the United Nations. And the project that I was telling you about also, I think it's also endorsed by the United Nations, not just only by the African Union. So it's quite important that as young people, we still have energy, you have all the resources, please don't be scared, don't shy away to always request for advice as to which doors to knock on. If you have an idea, run it through us, and indeed we'll be able to point you to the right direction. Well, I've taken time to reflect on what has been said here, but my duty was to explain who Sarah is and also explain as to what myself and my two colleagues do as part of the Repatriation and Restitution Office. SARA, which is the South African Heritage Resources Agency, was established in the year 2000 following the passing of the National Heritage Resources Act, number 25 of 1999. It was transforming the National Monuments Council, which was mainly focused on protecting colonial heritage. So we had to transform and look broadly at the South African heritage, retell our story as the people of South Africa, whether it's good stories or stories that relate to our national pain, which is colonialism and apartheid, and even stories that relate to our own individual pains as citizens of South Africa, and also as communities and descendants of individuals, leaders that suffered pain under colonialism and apartheid. So that's what the National Heritage Resources Act aims to do. It protects all the sites that relate to our history and culture, protect graves of traditional leaders, graves of people that died in conflict, including those that died in exile. And if I may cite one example, His Grace here, our Archbishop Makgoba, hosted in his cathedral the memorial service of Basil February that we exhumed in Zimbabwe, who died in 1967. So that's part of the work that we do. And in the early 2000s, as my colleagues were talking about, Kgoshi Mamphoku, we were collectively dealing with those requests from the families, from the communities, about those traditional leaders that also suffered a similar fate to as that of Kgoshi Mamphoku. Well, theirs is even more, or let me say, whatever attempts that have been made, there was nothing positive, to say that indeed this is where their ancestors were buried after they'd been killed in prison in Pretoria. So in those instances, well, we always refer to the spiritual part of a human being, as you were, as an Archbishop did indicate in his presentation, that that's one of the focus areas, that we are spiritual beings in whatever religion that we practice. So we look into that, and we work closely with the Freedom Park to take care of that aspect, and they coordinate in that. And moving forward, over time, around that time, in fact, we started discussing around having a policy that's going to look into repatriation. Obviously, the priority was people that died in exile, because it's still within living memory. People that died during the apartheid era from 1960 to 1994. and that was more of a priority. But this issue of leaders that died and their remains are not known, was coming up. Yinsa is one case in point. Kgosi Mamphoku, who led the 1906 rebellion in Zululand, is one case in point. He was also beheaded. So we started looking at the repatriation policy, but the government was not very welcoming, when we put across those initiatives, until eventually in 2023, in fact 2021, apologies, the cabinet adopted that policy, the national policy on repatriation and restitution of human remains and heritage objects, which holistically looks at people that died during the struggle, remains that are in museums, leaders of colonial resistance, those that died in detention. So it's a holistic policy, and we do also look at the artifacts that the Archbishop was referring to that need to be brought back to South Africa. They are all over. I was having a brief discussion with my colleagues from Vera to say in this region there was an ethnologist called Juno from Switzerland who went around taking whatever, the divining bowls from diviners, whatever that belonged to those families, and they are kept in museums abroad. The human remains are all over, graves that were dug up, they are all over. There are cases that we are working on. The Smithsonian Institute in the UK, in the US, are working with them. The Hunter Museum in Glasgow, which falls under Glasgow, University of Glasgow, we are working with them to bring back the mortal remains. And within the country, Iziko has, in fact, it's an issue that started even before the policy was passed. So there are human remains that are going to be taken back to Appleton, and there are human remains that are going to be taken back to Colesberg. And also they've identified some human remains that belong to Namibia, that they'll be taken back to Namibia. So museums are working tirelessly just to support what my colleague said, that it's something that we as human beings and that we're currently looking on. In fact, it's even internationally, museums are working tirelessly to try and get rid of those human remains. Well, there are some countries that are quite resistant, and there are some museums that are quite resistant as well. So I'm quite happy that within our country, our museums are cooperative, and they are working with us in trying to ensure that those human remains are taken back and to their respective communities and reburied. And we're looking at that in a holistic manner, that it's not just the remains coming back, they need to be rehumanized. When they get released from those museums, descendants need to perform the rituals that they need to perform, and they shouldn't be just taken as human remains that have been kept in museums as part of collections. They should be regarded as ancestral mortal remains. Same with heritage objects. They are not objects, they have a cultural meaning. If it's divining bones, if it's your great-grandfather's stick, it means something to the family, because those were his personal belongings. So that's what the Repatriation and Restitution Office coordinates and facilitates. And as I indicated, the onus is on museums. All we do in partnership with museums, we respond to requests. It's not like we go out and say, this is what we have. Or, do you have anything? It's for the communities and for descendants to approach institutions and say, there's something that belongs to us that we need back. Then we start working on those issues in a manner that is, what's the word? We don't fight. We work peacefully. I know there are some people that while think that they can bulldoze these issues. No, it's not so. Without taking any further time, Chairperson, as I indicated, we are here. We would be part and parcel of this process, and whatever kind of resources that we can request the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture to avail to assist towards this initiative, would do so, even if it's just to make contact with the political, say with this case in Germany, for instance, and if there is a need to make contact with the government of Germany, would do so through their embassy, through our embassy in Germany, and if there's a need for the president to intervene, that would be done. That's actually what helped us in Zambia. So, thank you very much, and wish you all the best with this case in particular, and hopefully within the next 2 or 3 years, I wish, that's my wish, it would be done.
No. So we're going to go to item number 11 of questions and answers. So, if re tlo dia so, ke tlo bulela gore re botsishe dipotšišo. Ge o ke tshepa o ka e araba, then re tlo re question number mang ra se ba re botsisha go okay. Ka ke nagana gore go ka se be bonolo gore re bere re botsisha ditso, bere re botsisha okay. What? You heard me, Mr. Richard?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I knew you can understand Sipé. So, the first question, it comes from me. You requested this meeting. Here we are. We have had this meeting. We now, I think we are remote leveling year one. We are pushing over the Yaka. Come, Garden, we are undoing the injustices of the past. So we are all agreeing for honor the legacy of Kgoshi Mamphoku. I search I think we are all agreeing. So, first question is, from here, what's the next step? I'm going to allow you to digest it. Yes, Mr. Future? Question.
Yeah, I want to answer your question.
It's fine. Yes, you're going to answer it. So, question number 1, already we know. We have Mr. Future answering us. Secondly, Puchishu. Libono re ke blind ka go interpret ke lo go tla ka speed ke tla isha ka go go botšitše ka go ke tla isha ka speed le sa dinagana di putisho jane a re dumelele Mr. Richard gore a re a.
The next step is to get funding somehow from government, local government, or whatever, Lira, everybody, to get that skull tested in Germany for DNA. I think that is for closure on the subject of where is the skull. We need to look at the objects and the skull in Germany, bring them back here to this country and be given back to the community and the people it belongs to. That I think is probably the most important thing, because that will conclude then the story, and then you can create your own stories which will become history in the future. So I think it's important to try and sort that out, figure out if that skull is or isn't, and then the next step is, if it isn't, then the museum skull should then be tested, if it can be. And I think that will bring a lot of closure to people running up and down between Germany and Ditsong, what is, having questions the whole time. Is it or isn't it? Is it or isn't it? We need to start closing those gaps, because for the last, since 2005, we've been, is it Ditsong? Is it in Germany? Is it in Ditsong? Is it in Germany? Do we accept the one in Ditsong? Don't we accept the one in Ditsong? So I think it's important for that process to start as soon as possible. And the elders are not getting younger, and I'm sure they want some sort of conclusion to that story, because I think we're all here today, that being probably the main story and the most important story to the whole Makgoba history. And what we do here today, and where we take it further from here today, that will also be written in history in the future, for your children, for their children, and so forth. That's all I have to say.
Got a question, and the question is in terms of the POPIA Act. Are the people around here agreeing that we should have an email address list so that Bukubali can have an email address list for us to circulate information? So we need your permission.
We agree. I agree.
Okay, just to be fair, is there anyone who's disagreeing? Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll make that one possible. Yes. Can I recognize Mr. Pili, and then Joseph will come after, and then Dr. will be the third. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. To answer your question, you talked about the meeting, this meeting, which I think I had proposed, because as you were communicating with me, I wanted to be sure that it's not just you, who's making that proposal or request, but it's the descendants of Kgoshi Mamphoku. So as we are here, we can confirm that indeed it's not you as an individual, whom we couldn't even know for sure that indeed you are part of the descendants. So now we can safely say that the request and the claim is coming from the descendants and even the current leader knows about it. Unfortunately, it's not has been hospitalized. Thank you.
I have two questions. The first question is a follow-up question to Mr. Trichard.
Just Frank, please.
Wouldn't it be cheaper to test the skull that is in?
Okay, it's actually more, I think it's going to be more expensive. The reason being is to do DNA testing here, and we're doing ancient DNA. It's not just normal DNA. It's going to be ancient DNA because the skull is quite old. Okay, so by doing ancient DNA, we don't have any labs in South Africa that do ancient DNA. So it has to be sent out to Europe anyway to get done. Germany's in Europe anyway, and I'm sure Germany has got DNA testing facilities, and to send it from Germany to Sweden or wherever they do that kind of testing is much cheaper, to be honest. That's why I think it's important to do that one first. And then if that's not a success, then do the one that's at Ditsong. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, second question is to Archbishop. Can I also have a copy? Thank you.
But Puchisho, and then Ditsong, but Kotogamo, Kalvakla, Ronali, Floyo, Bari, Kajimi. Artumen, Regemiona, retested, Revanor, Asion, Raysion, Obarelion, Retlavonori, Rayliona, Yabuya, Raysiona, Revuela Ditsong, Rotira, detested, Katsu. The Mila, Jenny. Re a go dipotšišo tše dingwe go na le se e le goreng le ka rata gore dipotšiše taba tša mabapi le tlhogo a ke bona ka taba ya tlhogo dipotšišo tše le nang le tšona ka taba ya tlhogo.
Ke ra gore ke latela Joseph.
Oh, excuse. Doc, what about your question? Sorry. Yeah.
My question is directed to Archbishop regarding Tabaya Germany. Has there been research yet on how the skull got to Germany?
Yes. And what I could do is probably put it all together and maybe hand over to and share that with you. The Germans, through the Swiss mission, occupied this land, and at some stage the Makhobas expelled them because they were on the side of those that were supporting takeover of the land. And through Ambassador Stone's Sizani and the EKD, which is where the Swiss Missionary Society kept their archives. So we've been working at that level. So I can give a high note, a memo.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for the book. We also have a special library, so the Cultural History Museum and the different museums that we have like really special books. So the book at we didn't find at other libraries because it's specialized library like issues of the histories, particularly Dicho. So it's specialized le rena we would then re tsene fase ka research ke part of what we do. Re tla dia tse dingwe we do have dibuka tse le gore di ngwadilwe in German, and so re tla nyaka di translation and so on re kgone go thusha particularly ka ya Germany and other information here re ka ikreya. And thank you for the book, Itaya Cultural History Museum and Library. We just rokeditse what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mkubwa. May I make a follow-up question? I'm glad you've mentioned translation. There's a book written by that particular family, and when they were here in Makgoba. It's written in Germany. It's called Ich Seid Land. And I've got an old copy of that and written in Germany. And I've been, some of it is almost like Dutch, like Afrikaans, yeah. But if we were to provide a copy and maybe as part of a tangible also thing from Sarah, and we can help in its translation, that would be a great deal, because it then talks about what those Germans did here, and I think it said land, it was like the land of milk and honey, and that they thought Makgoba's good for us. So I can avail that copy. But they asked that it be translated into English, and once into English, we can try and get some of the Bapedi professors to translate it into Sibeli, so that the Makhobas know what those people that were here in the 1885 did, Kgoshi, and the people.
Okay. I will just go in.
Ka khopela gore le bona gore thobo ya Kgosi Mamphoku ka taneng ka gore re so re a sokola ka baka la Kgosi Mamphoku e le go mmela ga koko wa rena re nyantše go yena ke koko wa rena bela re kwa bothoko re tshwenyetša bana re a sokola re so bela re khopela gore na e ta khumanega neng ya dula madulong a yona re kgone go khutša.
Okay, so what Kuka is saying is that when is it going to come back as we are struggling spiritually, or if that's the right translation, spiritually, as this thing is affecting us. But I'm going to allow you to digest it, to digest this question. And while you are digesting this question, I'm going to say something. I'm not speaking with this table. I'm only speaking with this one. You just digest the question. Otoma mo ya kwa. Le tlo shana le botšiša gore ba tlo re fa tšhelete na ke nako ye ya gore le ba botšiše. A re ba botšiše. Ba tlo re fa tšhelete re ba botša tlhoko. A re ba botšiše. Le ka bolela.
Ka gore le bona motho wa Mamphoku a o seo ga botse ne ke nyaka gore ba mmušo ba re thushe ka polase ile re dulang ka yona re emaemang ba re fe lengwalo la yona e se sa kgoma ke motho dilo ntho engwe le engwe re diele gana mo re tobileng go ka gore go a bakwa ka mo morago gana bjale le toga sogo tsena ke le dilo di ya monyanya ka ya go sena motse.
Okay, so what Kuka is asking is that, so in my understanding, there is a farm that is dedicated to the royal family that she wants all our cultural rituals. We must be able to perform there, since, well, we cannot access the farm, not necessarily the farm, but the house where Mamphoku used to stay. One, I can say, as their story, we've managed to locate it, but it's very difficult to go to such places. So we haven't went there but we have managed to locate and we know where the house is, but we cannot go there. Okay, not that we cannot. We couldn't go there for some reason. Oh, okay, we didn't have money to go there. But there is a house that some families don't know it, but so in that case they were given a farm, and in this farm that's where they want all cultural things to be performed, like the rituals. And fun fact, the Makhobas, they also know how to make it rain, and those rain pots, they are there. If you watch the spiritual side of Makgoba's episode on their story, you'll be able to see it. So they are asking, can they be assisted in that regard in making sure that that farm, we can be able to do that, all these things there. So the farm now, it's not fenced. It's just a farm full of trees, full of everything. It was just said, this is the farm that is for the royal house, but we don't have like a title deed or anything to say that do your things here in peace. So I think, Lira, you say you have a lot of work to do. We can come there and fix it somehow, because obviously we know what's happening in Makgoba. There was a question, it was not answered. The one question, let's give clarity to it. It's a question.
It's a process that has to happen first. It's a process, okay? First of all, there have to be negotiations between us and Germany and whoever owns that. So it's going to be a long process, unfortunately. It's not something that's going to happen in two days. When somebody mentioned 3 years, I doubt 3 years is even close. I think you're looking maybe, because there are a number of different, we've got our Heritage Act and our processes that we need to follow here. Now, just for example, let's say the skull that is at Cultural History, at Ditsong, right? It has to be deacquisitioned, okay? Now, that's a process that it has to be signed off by our CEO. It has to go to our board, and they have to sign it off. Then it has to go to the minister, okay? And the minister signs it off. That process can be reasonably fast, depending, but also can be reasonably slow. So it all depends, and Sarah will have an input in it. You know, it's a process that one has to go through. The DNA testing, for example, might take, I'm lying, or you know, I wouldn't know how long it takes, but it wouldn't be something that would happen in a week. It might even take 6 months. You know, maybe, yeah, minimum 6 months. You know, it's a process that we unfortunately have to go through. It's not something as simple as taking the skull and giving it to the family on the same day. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So to give a timeline on how long this process is going to take is very difficult. I don't know, maybe.
As much as a process, re tla le keeper updated. Let's say lerato le lengwe le lengwe le leng gore le a tšeiwa e leng gore ne le ke la gore bjale research go iwa Germany, re tlo le botša gore bjale go iwa Germany, and then go dilwe di-test ba re boditše gore di ka tšea ngwaga goba di ka tšea 3 years, ke ra 3 months gongwe ke nto e leng gore gongwe e tla lefa e tla le kgothatsanyana le ge e le gore as long as tlhogo ya mokgalabe e sa thwa e boya, o ka se be le phutso, o ka se be le kgotsofala, mara nto e leng gore e tla diwa ke gore lerato le lengwe le lengwe le tsebeng gore dilo di tšwela pele, a re no magane bjale ya ba gore no bolele ka gore re ka se bolele ya ba gore a re di selo, then e ra gore o taba go isna
nna be ke gopela if the Makhobas, maybe through Mokokobane, were to approach the Minister of Arts and Culture to ask on our behalf with your support that the German South Africa bilaterals should include the search for the scar of Makgoba. Then the government will not have to pay, but the money can be raised from the German Development Bank because we are part of the German South Africa bilateral. So if she were to write a proposal and say the proposal is endorsed, all of us who are here, and the proposal is not for money, is in the German South Africa bilateral, that the search for Makgoba's head should be looked at.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Bari abakono gore ba ka re botsa gore e tlo tsena go ikakana ke leeto dilo tša gona abakono gore ba ka rawa go sasa 2 weeks go ba ngwaga ke leeto mara nto le gore ba re tsebišane gore stage se sengwe se sengwe se ba fitlhang mo go sone ba tla re botsa ge e le goreng bjale go a tsamaya go a jemeng ba tla re botsa gore bjale re ile jemeng ge e le goreng diteko tšeo di a diriwa ba tla re botsa gore bjale re dirile diteko ge ba tseba gore di tlo tša nako e kakana bile ba tla re botsa gore ke promise ye ke koleng ba itirele and ke le file maele mara le homo okay Mr. Makgoba
Ke kule o bolela ka ela ya mabu o re lira rena mandate wa rena ke bokgwa mo mabung a re ke re tsena ga botsebotse so lena ge re mola o be o le tawara ya Vodacom le nyaka gore go be le heritage site ke bohwing bja ba Makgoba ke mo e le reng re a kgona go le thuša gore bjale kae ke be ke tlhaloša ke re di-site ke na le mo di registerwang gona mola sara gore motho ma leng gona kae kapa kae a kgone go etela e fela a se gore ra gore re ka se thuše batho ba ba ka le thušang kudumo ke batho ba land affairs ke bona ba tsebang tša mabu ande ke kwešiša gore lefilo le filwe ke bona so e ka ba taba ya gore motho o mongwe mo provinceng re nyakolle ba land and environmental affairs ge le gore ba agriculture le bona e ba part then ke mo ka re go ne taba ya ba Makgoba shi then e be bona ba e swara rena e re ka re ta e swara will be lying. I was just saying that as per our mandate we are on heritage matters, so we don't get into land affairs matters. However, since these are sister departments within the province, we can escalate the matter to the relevant department. Thank you.
If you are it's only the chairperson consideration letter mara cover the legislature kama site ni kama huwa kabishusho yake kidi tribal land and the tribal land jarena the traditional leaders ke bona ba bantshang di PTO permission to occupy rena go di tribal land jarena di title deed. Secondly, there is a check on you are not applicable and I underline claimina. Secondly, car applying a naked and local history and carbon and trusting and a camaja paraplegic in Chinese soldier for no shower now. I want to end the trustee lay deriwa, yellow or the proceeds to the species and a boy or nana. wa e kwešiša ko gore e nyaka gore re tsenelele ka go serious ka mogare ge go le gona ka mokgowe relationship ya lena le baka bogošing e jwang kore wa e kwešiša motse gore no Coxstar recommended a certain particular person to be responsible for that person e le gore ke nnete land ke ya lena and le na le problem le ba traditional council this matter se di tsena ke Coxstar ka bogare gore ba le ba ntlong ba nang le authority ya go tšha PTO ba kgone go le tšha PTO gore le kgone go kweša gore le nte go ka tla motho in future gore no a se ya lena le rago le khumane PTO from a certain particular traditional leader. So no ela o botšiša ela ya ntlo ela gore no o na le ntlo kae kae. You didn't want to dwell much go yona. Maybe tlo tsoša amang ye ba ile gore a ona na re sa tsebe. Re tšhaba go no re bulela mara nna wa ka nna be ke interested go ipona ke leng ka mogare. Go no commenta mo yona mara it's fine. Le tla ka gore le na le feel jwang. Le le a le feel gore le ka e bolela le yona le ka no le se bolela.
Okay, Jim, we will share it all. No, I'm not going to recognize you. Taba eo re tlo e bolela re jika soka kgona.
Okay, I will not try.
Re tlo e bolela ka kua ntle. Re ka dira tse dingwe. Can I please not recognize you?
No.
You wanna answer that?
No,
So,
I did no.
You are not answering
Exactly.
that. Okay. Before bolela. No, but thank you for that input. It shows that the people who are here, they know what's happening. So Lena, you are our people, we're going to talk. So now, I'm going to open the last round of questions. Kaya ka tsela, yeki round, let's go now. Kubadi, and it can feel my Puchishan Katara Ibuchishe. For the Toya, Iklo, and Kubaneri. But not if I challenge, you Puchisha General Puchishanga come today. Ari Puchishe. Ki bula last round ya diputsišo re bolela ka taba ya tlo ya Mamphoku ge o ka bolela ka ye nngwe re tlo no kgatha le kwa video ka se bona so I'm opening this round. This is the last round of questions. Any questions? Can I see hands? They are recognized. You're gonna be number 1, you're gonna be number 2. Le sharp move mara. Le gabotse. Ene a le sharp. Oh no. Laba felele. Going once, twice. Le show le sharp. Ale ne bui putisha. Le tlo ba number 3. Ke diputisho tša mafelelo tše ke ge re fetša go putisha diputisho tše di fetša go arabi la bile re tswale. Number 1, Jim.
Okay, no thanks. Chairperson, question I got more, and unfortunately, you know, I'm the former chairperson of this land. Like you know, one charge, the whole Makgoba land already gazetted in 1201 notice in the Department of Rural Development. My question specifically that issue here, this because we have a different institution. One of the merchant can go like Baragadi. Correct marumo or Gilitunia. Again, you know, so but the question is corner. Chona had no province in arena and then you go Puluguani. Puluguani is not our territory. Wakona Midona this side. But we're going to barricade and go. So I know Bujisharna. I cannot travel get that the whole Kgoshi Mamphoku. And then lastly, key issue in Kopagara, you know my like I don't know if the body I will look at that side. And then also, I will look at Aliwa. Number 2, the issue as I will look at Archbishop Keep the historical origin. You know, I'm still young. Mara is a vibrant decision like you, or the Jawadi cliche, like it or not. But in terms of the genealogy, you have to watch for Fiji. Especially how Mushat, because I'm not like Mampo, go to a Mampo, Kimam, so. And never who purpose can be a what's good to pay? Hello.
Okay. Number 2, never show
ke be ke botšiša gore na ke be ke emiša ke taba ya tlhogo. I think my brother mo o rile it's best to re DNA ya the skull cell selling kwa Germany. But kire a go kaunena gore o di we di test di le tshepedi so that res o ska ba le go ya le go boya go ntši, and that way go ta tsebega gore na ke sela se leng kwa Germany or ke se se leng mo gae na or ke se sefe ke putsišo le gore ke nyako e latlhela mo tafoleng.
Ke Mamatolo wa bolelang nna ke nyaka go tseba ka sesi o hlagahlagile taba e nngwe gore na wena sa botšiše ka tšhelete bjale ke botšiša ka yena ke re na hlogo ya ragolo e tlo le go boa gwa ba le tšheletane e fiwago ditlogolo tše tša gagwe ka mokana a re ba
Okay, the answers, maybe just by a show of hands. Question number 1 here was speaking about the guns that are there by Library Garden. Do we have anyone who can answer that one? Okay, let me answer it for you. This is question number 1 I'm asking myself. Not from the history that I know, but I promise you we'll do more research with regards to the guns, right? But from the research that I know, Mamphoku didn't have a gun. Mamphoku uba ilwa ka maru. Ntwa ya ga Makgoba ge be dira. Batho ba borena e be ba ilwa ka maru. Mara this is a promise to you. We'll do research about those guns and find out. And also, if bringing those guns here, they're going to trigger us. Me, I promise you, I'm not going to be part of that process. If those guns, based on the research they are I am not going to be part of that process. Okay, question number 2. Mr. Richard, a question was asked. Why can't we do the process of testing the skull in Ditsong and the skull in Germany simultaneously? Why can't we do that process? I think you are probably the right person to answer that.
Okay, I suppose one could do that, but they won't go to the same lab. So the process is going to take as long as it takes. It's not going to be something that's... But I suppose one can do it at the same time. That's not a problem. Whether you do it together or you do it separately, it's irrelevant, I think. But I think what's important is to try and get... Because the one in Germany might take longer to do, depending whether we can get cooperation from the people that own it and so forth. Yeah, so it's irrelevant or whatever. The problem is the one in South Africa, the one at Ditsong, will have to be taken out of the country to do. So it might be easier to do the one that's in Germany first, because the labs are in Germany or in Europe, you know, which might be quicker to do than... So if that one comes back as a positive, you know, then at least you've only paid for one, not paid for two. Does that make sense?
Okay, it makes sense. I just had a voice whispering in my head that mine is money probably. So maybe
I think that voice needs to be taken outside and given
So we'll explore the options. We'll just try to see if we can do that, but we'll explore the options. Yes.
I wanted to just to add, Hori, that can be done, and some fundraising, all of these things, so ke taba gore family ya ka go dira if gana bja lena le re dilo tše di diwe ka nako e tee e ra gore o tla nyakiwa tšhelete and then tša diwa ka nako e tee ya ba gore e le gore di fitha ka nako e tee di fitlhe ka nako e tee e le gore ngwe ke di-6 months apart o tla no ba go dira e ya Germany ka boa pele e buile pele mara ka gore ya Ditsong go šetše go ine process ye e šetšeng e thomile ga gana bjale gore e ya Germany e se yona then e le gore le nyaka go tšwela pele ka DNA le tšwela pele mara research e dilong ke gore di-possibility ke gore ke yona mara family yone e swantse gore re nyaka go diwa so then tšhelete e kgona go bakantshiwa go supporta the process.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the policy is quiet on that issue. However, on the issue of reparations, we look at symbolic reparations. Symbolic in the sense that we need something that the community or the descendants can always identify with. If, for instance, a statue is part of that symbolic representation to say the government has built a statue in commemoration of Kgoshi Mamphoku. There's a symbolic reparation. If it's a museum that is going to be a repository of all artifacts and whatever that relates to Kgoshi Mamphoku, then that be it. Because if you look at financial reparations, money can never replace the pain and the suffering that the generations have suffered, even that descendant himself. Because if we say financial reparations, how many descendants are there? How much is it going to be? You know, if we say there's going to be 100 million, and then there are 100,000 descendants, which is quite possible, you know, would that really make any difference? Would that kill the pain? So that's what usually it's how we address these issues. And as I said, the policy is silent in terms of whatever form of reparations, but collectively as a heritage center, as the Prof was mentioning, that any kind of resources can be availed to ensure that the heritage, the history, the legacy is celebrated for generations to come.
Yona a sore wa ino ga gore go na le ka mpholo re ba tlo ge e le gore re nyaka dilo tša go tshwana le di-statue re nyaka gore re dire dikgopotšo tša Mamphoku go na le ka mpholo gore o ka department ba ka re thuša ka gore mara ya gore be re tswere tlhogo ya Kgoshi Mamphoku for 130 years they don't have a Okay. With that being said, I'm humbled by this gathering. When we started this journey a few years ago, because before we could even start shooting, we had been doing some research, we had been working, and from the time we started shooting, that's when we can at least count and say it's been 3 years. And to have every one of you sitting here today, it's an honor because it shows that what we are working on Maria. So we're very honored and we'll forever be thankful for your words, your encouragements, your support, and I hope it's not only going to end here. I hope soon we're going to gather soon we're going to have a very big celebration when we're bringing the Kgoshi Mamphoku. I'm not necessarily an emotional person, but today something is happening because I'm so overwhelmed. Even when I saw everyone confirming that they are coming, I had to like switch off my phone and go somewhere and come back and be like, guys, is this really happening? So it's an honor to have you here. I want to participation in participation we together. We're going to tell the stories of Kgoshi Mamphoku, and we're going to tell it for generations and generations to come. Through us, through this process, there's going to be peace. There's going to be peace to the clan Mamphoku. One day, and hopefully one day, I'm not going to pay. This one, she assisted the process. So when you go, wherever you are going, never watching Cape Town, peace. And we are willing to work on it. We're willing to heal the wounds. We're willing to go through the pain. We're willing to accept the things that happened. But we're not only going to accept them. We're going to accept them undoing the injustices. When it's the 9th of June, Makgoba's cliff must vibrate. I must know from wherever I am that on this day, a king is being commemorated. I want to see it on the news. I want to wake up and switch on the TV and I see that today is the 9th. I want to go one day to a theater and I watch a movie, but a movie of Kgoshi Mamphoku Makgoba. And that's not possible if everyone is not here. I know it's difficult to listen to people that we don't agree with, but there's power in it. Some people, we hate them for wrong reasons. Some people, we inherited the hate from Kojo Kokol. Some people, we just don't understand. And Kishore Galimbuana, you thought, this young child, what is she going to tell us? But you were surprised, right? Sometimes it's important, let's have a conversation. We have Facebook, we have WhatsApp. If there is a way that you can do to make sure you try to know another person or understand them, so that whatever we do as a collective here, let's try it. Let's try it. And also, please, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Their Story, Makgoba's Group. When you get time, just go there, learn about us. We have a very rich history, and we have like a beautiful. Sometimes I wouldn't encourage you to come here and just look at the trees without understanding. But go to their story. You will understand why, as people, we respect certain places like Budibengele, as they call it. But you see people there, and they get there inside, and they don't come back, and then they are surprised. But if you watch their story, you will know and understand why we're not going inside. So please, people, let's support their story. Let's give their story money. Let's celebrate and honor the legacy of Kgoshi Mamphoku. Thank you and thank you. Now that we are done with the meeting, I can confidently say that Kgoshi Mamphoku is going to one day come back home. I can confidently say the people of Makgoba, they will get peace. I can proudly say that as the people of Makgoba, we are ready to heal. I can proudly say that we are ready to go on this journey of undoing the injustices of the past. Thank you so much for watching the story. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode.